Hey there, gang. Patrick King here, coming to you live from Columbus, Ohio, at the Equine Affaire with my good friend Wendy Murdoch. Wendy, thanks so much for agreeing to do this with us here. So we've been getting a lot of our daily messages, our daily questions. And who is this guy?
This is Elmer.
Elmer's been dying to be on this show with us here. So that's awesome. So Wendy, we'll just kind of jump right into this.
Okay.
I've got some equitation questions, some rider fix questions that have come in to us for our daily Q&A. So we're going to start out with Logan. Logan's question, she says, what about my toes turning out? I have a problem with my toes turning out. I have a terrible habit of turning my toes outward, and especially the right foot, she says. And when I turn it back in, I have to strain my whole leg to keep it there. Do you have any advice on this?
Yeah, my very first question is if she spends a lot of time driving her car. So, you know, driving the car is like the worst thing we can do for riding because it's so asymmetrical. And when we drive, we've got that right foot on the gas pedal. A lot of cars actually kind of tuck the gas pedal off into the side, and so you kind of have to get your foot there, and you got to turn it a little bit. I used to have a Subaru, and I noticed this because the housing for the transmission came, and you had to kind of get your foot around it. So while I loved my Subaru, it really messed up my right leg.
Gotcha. Okay? Because you got to be turning.
You got to kind of turn your foot out. Okay. So driving is really, we really have to pay attention to what we do when we drive. It's a really good idea to level out your seat, so at least you're not sitting in a bucket and then you're sitting more flat. But then the other thing is probably she's tighter in her right butt cheek than her left. Okay. So I'm going to get Elmer here. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. Hang on, I just have to unscrew his post.
I got the bottom.
You got it? Okay, cool. There we go.
There we go.
And he's a great help for a lot of things, right? And so what we have to realize is, here's our hip joint, and it's a 2-inch ball in a socket. It's a really big joint. In fact, it's the biggest joint in our body. But you can see without any muscles that Elmer can do just about anything.
It makes me jealous how flexible he is.
I know, he can put his foot behind his head, you know, because there's nothing limiting him. Okay. So the joint itself has tremendous range of motion. But then we have ligaments that are going to stabilize that hip, and that's a really good thing. And so I get a lot of people that say, come to me and ask me about yoga. And yoga's great, but you never want to take it too far if you want to ride well. Arthur Cottis once came to me and said, this is the only thing he said to me. I was like, what? He said, I'm a really good rider and I'm stiff. And there's a guy at the Spanish riding school who can literally put his foot behind his head like that, and he's a terrible rider.
No kidding.
Yeah, because we need these ligaments to stabilize joints, and when the ligaments are too loose, we have to go to muscles to stabilize the joint, and muscles are not efficient at that.
Gotcha.
So we have ligaments in this hip, and I'm going to pull his hip out of the socket, and you're going to see this ligament right here, okay? And that is on all of us. You know, obviously it doesn't stretch the way Elmer's does.
We hope, anyway.
Yeah, really. On people who have dislocated their hip, it's extremely painful, right? But this ligament is really keeping that ball in the socket, and that's really important. And then we have ligaments that limit how much we can externally rotate and how much we can internally rotate. And again, that's a good thing. When we're riding, what we're looking for is that we align the thigh along the saddle. Because the thigh, you can feel it has a flat, feel that bone.
Oh yeah,
it's flatter
absolutely.
Here, isn't it? And it's rounder here.
Right.
So if we ride with the round part on the saddle, it's not as stable and secure.
Which is very typical.
Very typical.
Yeah.
But we really want the flat of the thigh on the horse.
Okay.
Okay? So when we're looking at the position that we want the weight on the seat bones with the widest part of the seat bone in the saddle, and we want this femur in a neutral position. In other words, we don't want it externally rotated, and we don't want it internally rotated. That would be knee pinching, right? And this would be frog leg.
Gotcha.
Okay? So what your student is talking about is that leg externally rotates.
Yes.
Okay? Well, you can see here that the joint can do almost anything as long as there's no muscles.
Right.
Right? And he doesn't have the ligaments that limit the internal and external rotation.
Okay.
Okay? But basically, once we understand this hip joint, then we have to ask, why is that leg externally rotated? Because clearly we have all these options.
Right.
All right, so we're going to put the Elmer back on his post. We're just going to tighten him down a little bit so he doesn't go falling. Okay? All right, so now you can see here's his leg hanging. We'll get his arm out of the way. And his legs are basically hanging straight down.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now what is it that causes external rotations? That's muscles. Okay? And most specifically, the muscle that's going to cause external rotation is gluteus maximus, your butt muscle.
So when she's sitting in the saddle, that's turning everything out.
If she tightens that glute, it's going to externally rotate this thigh. We're going to put this arm over there for a minute. Okay, we're going to turn him slightly. You see this big old knob?
Yes.
This is called the greater trochanter.
Okay.
Okay? Big knob.
Big knob.
Big
That's
knob.
perfect.
Okay?
Big knob. I hope you guys are taking notes.
We have muscles. When I contract the glutes, it's going to pull that knob and
Gotcha.
externally rotate that leg.
Okay.
So it sounds to me like you have a tighter butt cheek on one side, and you're probably also a little bit the driving, right? And so now the habit is to do this.
Yes.
So we have to let go in the glutes to allow this femur to come into a neutral position. The other thing we're going to have to do is take pressure off the stirrup. Because as long as she holds a lot of pressure on the stirrup to get that heel down, there's no way I can move this leg.
Right.
The pressure against the stirrup is going to prevent the leg from moving.
Gotcha.
So she has to lighten the heel,
Okay.
okay, and allow the leg to internally rotate, and then it's going to be able to go back and down
Okay.
so that
yes.
it comes underneath her. All right? I'm going to have you do this so it's really clear. So we're going to stand up.
Okay.
You thought you just got to
I didn't think it was going to be a guinea pig deal.
No, of course. Always, all right?
Okay.
So now, all right, here we are in neutral position.
Okay.
Okay, great. Turn both feet out. What muscles did you use to do that?
The back of my thighs and my
And your
glutes.
butt.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Now, bring your feet neutral again. Internally rotate. You use the internal rotators, right?
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
adductor
And
muscles.
everything back here is passive.
And it's had to widen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So now come middle, and just externally rotate one leg, and push that heel forward and downward. Okay. And just push against the floor with that heel a little bit. Okay. And notice that your body went forward over that foot.
Yeah.
Had to. Right?
Right.
As soon as you put that pressure,
Right.
you have to come forward. Now, with that pressure on that foot, try to change it.
Yeah.
You can't.
You can't.
Because the pressure's on the foot.
Absolutely.
In order to change it, you have to change the pressure to allow the leg to come back.
Okay.
Okay? So the first thing, most likely, is just got to lift that heel a little bit, take the pressure off the stirrup,
Okay.
okay? And then soften in the glute and think about allowing the leg to internally rotate to a neutral position.
Okay. Okay. Now I know in the past riding with you, you've had me basically roll my thigh behind. So is that something she can start with?
She can do
Something
that,
like
but again, she's got to take the pressure off the
But she's
foot
gotta
to be
be-
able
yeah.
to do that.
Okay.
Maybe even do that without her foot in the stirrup, and then
Gotcha.
replace it.
Right.
I'm going to
Okay.
show you one other thing about this. Now that you're standing, we'll get that hand up out of the way. So here, if I have this leg like this and I'm pushing it forward, I'm braced against that stirrup.
Yes.
And you felt how your head came forward over it.
Absolutely.
Okay? So now my foot is turned out, my knee is turned out, and if I try to bring my foot parallel from here, I'm going to ruin my ankle and my knees.
Right. Right.
Okay? So
Absolutely.
you can't make that change from the foot. You've got to make the change from the hip.
Gotcha.
And what we really want the leg to do to be in a really good place is to think of the heel lengthening back and down toward the horse's back foot instead of forward down toward the front foot. Right? So, you ready to hold Elmer?
Yeah, sure.
We're going up on the horse.
All right.
Okay? I'm going to take this sign down from here so it's just easier to see.
So he needs to come off his stand.
He
Yeah.
needs to come off his stance. You have to loosen his slide nut there. We're going to slide the horse out just a little bit. Got
I
it?
think we're loose. I'm going to let you handle him.
Well, here, just pull him up. Right.
All right.
Okay? Now, his lower back is fixed. He's got quite a sway back here. He can't change that.
Okay.
Okay? So now you're
So
going
he
to...
did too much younger.
Yeah. Too much day posture. You got to hold him at the neck. You're taller than me.
Okay.
Okay? Oh, we're going to switch
Yeah.
places.
It's our first rodeo.
Yeah, okay. So here, if I pushed on my stirrup, I'm going to externally rotate and put that leg forward, right? And now my heel is going toward the horse's front foot, and you're going to have to lean over that foot to stay in balance.
To stay balanced,
Because
yeah.
your brain wants your head over your feet. Your
Right.
brain's smart,
Right.
okay? If I don't take the pressure off of this foot, I'll push you right
Oh, yeah.
over the other side of the horse because I'm bracing on the stirrup.
Right. Right.
Okay? So now look at the pressure we put on the horse's back.
Absolutely.
And we've thrown him to the opposite shoulder.
Yes.
Okay? All right, so I have to alleviate this force in order to make a change in this leg. And more importantly, The harder I push on the stirrup, the harder the stirrup bar is pushing on the horse's back, pushing it down.
Yes, right.
Okay, so I have to alleviate the pressure. Okay, let the leg internally rotate, and now I'm going to think about the heel going back and down for the hind foot, and look what happens in the hip now.
Yeah,
it opens, and that's going to let. Okay, so now you're going to swing him forward in a rising trot. Come on, you got to go this way. Now you kind of led with the top of the pelvis. Go back. Lead with the bottom of the pelvis. There.
Gotcha.
There. And now the hip opens as he rises forward up. Okay, now rest for a second. I'm going to put this leg back out here again. Put that break. Now you go.
So now from here, he's just...
How easy is that now?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so much more work, and you feel how... look at how much you've moved back.
Right, because he wants to slam back down.
Back down, because this pressure is pushing everything back.
Gotcha.
Okay? So here, if we alleviate that pressure, now you can put him a little more forward and swing him forward up. Up, down, up, down,
absolutely.
up, down.
Right.
Cool. All right, let's
Fantastic.
just be careful of his ribs. We'll swing his leg up over.
We're stuck.
We got caught in the ribs over there. Yep. That's what I love about having the, this is a Home Depot special. It's a $200 Halloween decoration. And it's okay if I beat up on it a little bit. This one's a lot more expensive, so we have to be really careful with Elmer. Make sure he's tightened down before we do anything next. All right. Hopefully that answers that question.
Okay, good. So she's got to watch her driving leg. She's got to
take some pressure off the stirrup to let that leg come back and down.
Okay.
Yep, and think about internally rotating that thigh.
The internal rotation.
Let go in the butt.
Yeah. Okay. So Logan, it's a butt massage for you. So we're passing out all kind of great advice.
See, this is what I love about Patrick. He always makes it humorous.
There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, that's awesome. I hope that was helpful. And Logan, if you're watching, please feel free in the comment section below this video. Let us know if you've got any other insight, any other questions to go along with that. So,
in fact, if anybody has any questions about that, just leave it in the comments and I'll come back and answer those questions later.
Absolutely. That's awesome. Okay, so our next question is going to come from Byron. Okay. Byron says, when I ride bareback, my legs tend to just hang. Okay. But they're slightly elevated in the stirrups, making an angle in the leg that's allowing me to move my knees easier.
Okay, so my first question is, why would you want to move your knee out?
Right.
Because it's right back to what we were kind of talking about here,
exactly.
The external rotation.
Yeah.
But the answer to the bareback question is, that leads right in, because I just wrote an article for a holistic course magazine on riding bareback.
Awesome.
Right, and that'll be coming out, I'm not sure what issue, but check Holistic Horse Magazine, because I talk about the pros and cons of riding bareback. There's some really great advantages, which is, getting a better feel of your horse and that sort of thing, but there's some disadvantages. And one of them is actually that when we ride bareback, there's no limit to the foot. So we don't learn how to use the leg correctly.
Gotcha.
Okay? So we're going to look at the skeleton again. I'm going to move my chair and we're going to move Elmer out of the way for a minute. And he's not a perfect skeleton because he's a $200 Halloween decoration, but he's pretty close.
Close enough.
Right? So when we're sitting on the horse bareback, what's going to happen is that because there isn't the shape of the saddle, the leg is going to go forward into the narrower part of the ribs.
Yes.
So the leg always goes forward when you ride bareback because to stay here, you can't really do it. The leg's just going to slip forward.
Right.
Okay? So the other thing about it is when you're bareback, you don't have a stirrup. I mean, that's kind of obvious if you're riding bareback. But it's called an open kinetic chain versus a closed kinetic chain. An open kinetic chain has no limit. There's nothing underneath your foot. There's nothing restricting your foot. You don't have to learn how to work within a specific distance. When you put your foot in the stirrup, it's called a closed kinetic chain. And now we have to learn how to move our joints within that limit. What so many people do is they push against the stirrup and they keep trying to find an open kinetic chain. They keep trying to move the limit. Okay? But it goes back to what we just demonstrated. We're going to do it again. Because you have to learn how to use the hip, knee, and ankle within the limit of the stirrup in order to move the pelvis forward as opposed to bottoming out, which is going to put a lot of pressure on the horse's back.
Yes.
Okay? All right. So we're going to employ Elmer one more time. just loosen up his nut here. There we go. Okay, and we're gonna swing his leg over the horse. Okay, so here's what happens when we ride bareback. That leg's going to slide right into that groove of the ribs because it's the logical place. There you go. Yep, and you're going to sit in the deepest part of the seat. So no matter how much you try to sit forward, you're going to slide into the deep part, and your leg is going to slide forward into the narrow part of the ribs. Okay, so now we go, wow, here's my hip, my ear, shoulder, hip. Look at how far forward my ankle is. Okay, to try and pull it back, you know, especially on a wide horse, it's not possible. Your hip can't abduct, go outward far enough to get around these really broad horses that we have. And it's not going to stay there. It's going to sit right back. It's going to want to go right back. Okay? So here we are, bareback, open kinetic chain, no limit underneath the foot. Okay? When we ride with a stirrup now, we're going to make a limit. So I'll create the limit. If we have a saddle, it's going to, you get to hold it.
We're going to be up suspended.
Yep. Sure. Okay. As you're up, that's going to make this V higher up over the back instead of flat down here, so the leg can come underneath you. Okay, and now my hand's going to be the stirrup. Okay, so now this is the limit down here. Okay, you swing on the rising trot again. Up, down, up, down. So we have to work with the hip, knee, and ankle in a way that works within that closed kinetic chain.
Right.
What a lot of people do is they push against the stirrup, and since it is a pendulum, they push it a little forward. Right. And then if we push it forward and out, but now you go and feel how much more restriction in the hip.
Right.
Okay.
And I find that particularly in a lot of our Western saddles that have the stirrup bar set farther forward than we probably want anyway.
Right. And the deepest part of the seat tends to be further back, so it's putting you in this chair seat with the leg in front and the deepest part back. Right. So if you move him back a little bit, you know, you're going to see that that's going to make this even worse if we're in a Western saddle. Yeah. And then if the stirrup isn't shimmed so that the foot's trying to find level and it turns out a little bit, now go.
So now it's a whole lot extra work.
Right, and you have to go so much further to get over this horizontal thigh. Right. The more vertical the thigh, the quicker and easier that hip can open. And
the better balance is going to be the whole way.
And the more we can send the horse forward.
Yes.
The minute we're here and pushing back.
Right, because coming up here, just everything wants to push you back down into that saddle. And that's when we see our riders slapping down into the saddle at the bottom of the post.
And the horse is hollowing their backs. And then the rider has to pitch forward to get their head over their feet. And then everybody yells at them to sit up because they're leaning forward.
Yeah. But they didn't fix where the problem was to begin with.
Right. So as soon as we bring the leg back and we have that limit, closed kinetic chain, now swing, up, down,
everything's so much easier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, that's going to lead us into the second part of Byron's question, is that when he does lift his knees in the saddle, when he's riding bareback, his horse is getting anxious, which is going to make sense with what we talked about with adding extra pressure to the horse's back.
Yeah, because as the leg comes up, the weight's going down.
Absolutely.
Right? And so now you're kind of hitting. And this is one of the things, I don't know if we can turn him, or maybe the cameras can come around. But if you just come this way and we bring the cameras to the back here, what I want them to see is the distance between the seat bones and the spine. And there's very little distance here between the seat bones, the width of the seat bones, and look, here's the transverse processes on the spine.
Yes.
So there's very little room there.
Right.
Right? So it doesn't take much if we sit a little off center that we're going to be putting pressure directly on that horse's spine, and that's going to be uncomfortable because this is so narrow here. And that's just, you know, this is an average person. This is 5'4". That's my height, right? And this is not the most pretty horse spine in the world, but, you know, about the right width. It's about 4 fingers. So we're not talking very much room, and so it wouldn't take much on some horses for this to be really uncomfortable.
Right.
The other thing you have to realize when riding bareback, especially if you're walking, is the pressure is pretty static here.
Yes.
5 pounds of pressure is damaging. 5 pounds of pressure is really little. So if you're walking a long time just sitting on your horse, that's putting a lot of downward force here and actually can damage. You can wind up with white hairs from the seat bone damaging the hair follicles.
Wow. Makes me want to go on a diet.
Well, you know, the weight factor isn't as significant as the structural bone.
Yeah, okay,
right? Because hard always goes through soft. But yeah, I mean, you know, you could use a few pounds off. So could I.
Oh, goodness. So then basically the answer to Byron's question is don't lift your knees. Let
right.
your legs hang.
Let your legs hang.
And so then when he's riding in the saddle, he says that his knees are elevated a little, so maybe we need to fix those stirrups.
I'm thinking we might need an equiband to help bring the stirrup back so it's back underneath him.
Gotcha. Absolutely.
I can show you what I'm talking about right here. You know, and this is one of the things that I came up with to fix so many saddle problems where the stirrup bar is too far forward.
Yes.
Okay? And basically what you do is you take this span on Western saddles is great because this can go right behind the saddle.
Because you get the cantle.
You got the cantle, and you tie it to the stirrup, and I can hold the stirrup back. So now the rider's not trying to pull their leg back, but the band, you know, and I'm going to put it around his leg.
The band is helping them to come back there.
The band holds it back, and then their foot follows the stirrup because the stirrup's back.
Yeah.
Because if they try to pull
now
the
keep
leg
in mind,
back,
she's just got it wrapped around his leg for illustration.